Before we start today's episode, I want to talk about today's sponsor, as always, Guerrilla Graphics Design Agency. Our video that we just put out, The Tinder Gang, besides being nominated for student film, it's killing it on Facebook and YouTube. It has hundreds of views coming in. This is the best one of the best companies that you can hit up in the state, period. Having personally collaborated several times, I can tell you, they know their shit. When we were in that shooting environment, the crew, they knew what was going on. So I love these guys. Please hit them up. Head over to guerrillagraphics.com, www.guerrillagraphics.com for all your design needs today. Hey guys, I want to talk with you about a very special local event, the return of the Hip Hop Showcase, hosted by Lolo Savage and Dirt Nasty Beats. If you're in the Des Moines area and are hungry for some local up-and-coming hip-hop and rap music, this is the #1 spot in the city to come see it. This is even also being hosted by none other than our friends at Starbucks Productions, along with our friend Jackson Brown at Iowa Underground. It's only a $10 entry fee and it's happening at your private bar, located at 1701 25th Street in West Des Moines, Iowa. That's 1701 25th Street. It's going to be a fun time. You'll get a chance to meet several former podcast guests. You may even see yours truly, some around the crowd, 4 IPAs deep, dancing along with everyone else. It's going to be a blast. Check out Iowa Hip Hop Showcase's Facebook page for more information. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the McAllister podcast. Long-awaited episode. Aubs, Aubrey Barnes. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm doing really good, man. I can't complain. It's nice out. I don't see much snow anymore, so it's always
yeah. Well, I've been telling you, I am in the middle of like a family wedding type of thing for my sister.
Yeah.
And my sister's actually allergic to the cold, believe it or not.
She's what?
She's allergic to the cold.
Really? Oh, shit.
Yeah. So, really unfortunate for her to be in town this weekend when there's like fucking snow in April.
Seriously, that's crazy. I've never heard of like an allergy to snow, so that's interesting.
Well, it's the cold, like any kind of cold.
Oh, just any kind of cold. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, like we would go to like at the lake and stuff in the summer, and like we had to like make sure that she would not go in the water. Because, like, if she fell off the dock, like, she could, like, go into anaphylactic. The theory was she can go into anaphylactic shock. I'm not sure, but I feel like as she's gotten older, it's gotten a little better. I think it was a lot worse when she was younger, but, I mean, I won't speak for her.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I tell people and they don't believe me, and I'm like, yeah, it's a legitimate thing.
No, that's, like, interesting. I was just never, I'm telling you, like, it's little things like that, like, always like provoke me to write little things. It's like, man, that could be a dope metaphor at some point. I feel like I'm always thinking of like art when I like hear about stuff like that. Like, oh, word, that's dope.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm actually gonna look up the name of it and all that after this for sure.
Well, shit, man. I'm really glad that you're here.
Yeah, man,
we just got done playing a chess game.
Yeah, that's intense.
This will be exclusively on the Patreon for those who want to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But I went in hot and cocky. Giving you the first event, the advantage, letting you go first,
Yeah.
And I had you for a little bit. But one pawn fucked it all up, and this man ended up beating me. So,
man, I had to be focused for that.
If you want to see me go through a lot of different ranging moody emotions from like cocky, and then I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, kill me now. If you want to go see that, I want to see this man kick my ass.
Go to Patreon.
Yeah. Well, not kick my ass. It was a close game.
Yeah, no, that shit was close. That's why I'm saying it was a close game. It was good. That was a fun ass game.
Chess is always about wits. And also, the most impressive thing that you mentioned is that you just learned, what, a year and a half ago, you said?
Yeah. One of my students taught me how to play it because like we had a chessboard in the classroom I was in. I was like, okay, well, I don't know how to play this. And like, you say it's your favorite game. So we ended up playing. He was kind of showing me the ropes, the rules. And like, I'd go home and like look up shit too, like just little strategies and stuff like that. So ever since then, like, I think I always just made it a practice. I played with my students like at least 3 times a day, so like I still have that practice and stuff like that. But now I play with homies. I got a homie that I play with every Sunday and stuff like that. So I feel like it's been for like a year and a half, but it's just like I've been like really kind of in it. And I think just being somebody who thinks about like shit like that, it kind of just made it like click, you know.
Yeah. You ever do RPG type of stuff, like board games or video games or anything like that?
Oh, I used to for sure. Like, man, RPG games were like, no, that was like my lane for sure. Like, you're talking like games like Final Fantasy.
I never got into that personally, but
I love Final Fantasy.
I've heard those are fun.
Final Fantasy was like one of my first like role playing games that I really got to. That really got me into role playing games. It was more so for that because like it was just so like, I don't know what it is with like role playing games, but they always have the most like interesting stories. I don't know, like it feels like they're always like more interesting with like the storylines. So maybe I'm just specifically thinking like Final Fantasy because like the first role playing game I ever played was Final Fantasy X, one of the best like ones in my opinion. You know, I shouldn't say that. 7 was good too, but 7 was just like
Which one?
Final Fantasy 7.
Oh no! Oh, just number 7.
Yeah, that one's very like
I've heard
monumental to the Final Fantasy like franchise and all that.
I've known other people who are really into it, and they've always cited that number 7 is like the top one.
No, it's a really good one.
Yeah,
but that was like the first. Like it's just the storylines of the like Final Fantasies because it's always like they're never the same. Like a Final Fantasy 1 game may have a different bunch of characters, different plot, different thing. Final Fantasy 2, same thing, like different plot, different characters and all that. So like because you have all these different like games that are not the same, but they're similar like their role playing aspects, like you get all these like different stories that are really deep, like stories about just like life and shit. And I feel like anime, like, I shouldn't say anime, but anime too, I guess that was like Freudian slip, but I feel like Final Fantasy really got me into like, man, like it made me have feelings, just like games can make you have feelings and shit. Like I thought it was just murder a bunch of people and just do shit, but no, and just the strategizing behind it was like super dope too.
That's
like,
tight. That's dope. Tight.
But yeah, I was a big role playing game.
Like, you ever played the game To the Moon or hear of it?
No, I never heard of that one.
So it's the only game I've ever cried playing. It's a game about an old man who has like dementia, and he's like trying to he wants it's this technology where he wants his memory erased. Molly, what is it again?
What?
The game To the Moon. Like, what's the plot? Do you remember? What exactly is the plot? Like, what are they trying to go back to? No idea. Sorry, I didn't mean to put.
He's just trying to forget his life, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Damn, this is a game?
Yeah, this is and so it's like a 2D, like, pixelated, like.
It's one of those little, like, JRPG games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Damn, I've never heard of that. That's
yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like $5 on Steam or something, so yeah. I highly recommend anybody play it, but, like. Yeah, man, I get what you're saying. I remember like when I was, this is kind of deja vu because I was just talking about this a couple episodes, but like ago. But I remember telling my mom like when I was younger, like showing her like the Halo music, you know, because it's like this, you know, I don't know if you ever played those games.
I know they're very like kind of like they're very kind of like they have like orchestra kind of scores and all that.
Yeah,
I know that about them.
Yeah,
I'm kind of a passive fan. Yeah, so I know that for sure.
Yeah. Well, just super for a video game, especially. I think probably groundbreaking for like, you know, music. Like I feel like it was always like done, you know, mostly up until that point, like in the game engine, like really limited type of sounds and like kind of like computer-y corny.
Yeah,
and that like really. Like at least as far as I know, like redefine that like epic kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I remember showing my mom that, and she was like, "This is a video game." I'm like, "Yeah, this is like, you know," because I think that generation always thinks of them as like the little.
Yeah,
you know I mean?
just like the little robotic like sounds and all that. Yeah, no, I never thought about that. Like, what again? Like, it's. I think I've been a passive fan of Halo, but just even think about how like it's because they had live orchestras play music specifically for that game, right?
Yeah,
that's super dope. Like I never really thought about that they actually use like real music for that. That is super dope.
Yeah, I think they would do concerts actually where they would have people play Halo and they would have like the orchestra playing along to it.
What?
I could be full of shit on that, but I feel like they did that at some point.
That's hella crazy.
If they haven't, they should.
So they just had somebody like there was like an audience attendance watching this person play a video game as like the orchestra playing around them. It's kind of dope. I'm not gonna lie. That dude got paid to like just have people watch him play Halo.
Yeah,
like
the beauty of capitalism, man.
Right? We were just talking about that. It's like you could literally make money doing anything. Like,
farting in a jar, playing.
Farting in a jar, which is a real thing, like, which is weird and nasty. We talked about that shit.
More on the Patreon.
And people buy that. Yeah.
Back to capitalism.
Yeah,
capitalism. Right. Give us some capitalism, man.
Right.
You want to keep seeing this shit? We do this twice a week, motherfuckers.
It's like, yeah, you out there buying farts in jars. It's like,
if you can pay for,
you know who you are.
if you can pay for a fart in a jar, you can pay $4 a month to see
For a
some extra
podcast.
shit for
Exactly.
a podcast. That's like what? Almost what Hulu costs. 60% of what Hulu
Y'all are
costs or
paying a
something
quarter
like
of your
that.
rent for a fart in a jar. We're talking $4.
Shit.
Paying $300 for jars. It's a crazy thing. Like I said, man, that's the stuff that gives me motivation, man. Like, man, like literally, you can make money doing anything. Like, if I wanted to, like, if I was, let's say that I was Alicia Keys and I wanted to like yell in this bottle of water and put a top on it and sell it for $1,000, somebody's buying that shit. I bet you. Somebody, because people are just that. I hate to say it, but people are just that stupid. Like, it's just like, so there's like, oh, we're gonna buy this this spring water bottle with that Alicia Keys screamed in, put a top on. It might give us singing ability, or just some psycho, just super like who has obsessive, like who's obsessed with Alicia Keys. Like somebody would buy that with millions of people on the earth. Like somebody would buy that for $1,000. And it's just like with that, it's like wow, like you can literally make money off anything. Like. So with the good ideas that we have, it's, again, this is why that's about saying that you guys need to purchase the $4 a month. If you purchase a water bottle with Alicia Keys' voice in it, you can spend $4 a month.
Yeah, because this podcast is more valuable than that.
Right.
Objectively.
Right.
We're not that valuable, but come on, man. Give me a break.
Money can be made any type of way.
Aubs, you just put out a new project, Politicking, and I don't think we actually got a chance. Have we gotten a chance to talk about your other two projects? The one.
No, we haven't.
I don't think we have. I it's weird. I keep listening back on that album and like rediscovering other songs. Like I rediscovered the song "Feelings." I've been like bumping that one. Just
you like that one?
You know.
Yeah, you know what's funny? That beat was like made in like 20 minutes by one of my friends. Cause, like,
Really?
Because I was like, man, I want a beat that sounds like this. And it's probably like a producer's like nightmare when people ask us like, I want something that sounds like this. And he listened to it. And then he just made his own thing in 20 minutes. Like, I don't know if this fits. Like, no, that fits. Especially with like the ending of the album. It's like the closing of church or some shit. Church where you can cuss in, say the N-word and shit.
Oh shit.
But yeah, that was made quick. But yeah, we never talked. I think we talked about In and Out of It. I think a little bit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't think we talked about And This Is Where We Die.
Well, I don't think I know very many other artists that have come through on the podcast that are putting out as much shit as you. I mean, 3 projects since you've last been on, which has been less than a year.
Yeah.
I think. I think I was in the quad. Molly, do you remember when we were in the quad cities last? No idea. I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Right.
Molly's like, fuck off. I just woke up.
It had to be in like August or September because I was still working in the schools and shit. It had to have been August or September because August. Yeah,
Okay.
It was either August.
So
or
yeah,
September.
like fuck 7 months or something like that.
Yeah, yep.
God damn, dude.
It's crazy because like I never think about like how much I put out. Like even I was having a conversation with my buddies like I came up here with, but like I was telling him like how much project I put out, and I guess I just never think about like how much I have out because I'm just always like I put something out that I'm already working on another thing, but like when I'm working on this other thing, I already have an idea for the other thing, you know. But I never really like pay attention. I was like, yeah, you actually have put out like at least 1 or 2 projects like a year for the last 4 or 5 years. I just never think about it because I'm just my brain's always creating. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, man.
Conceptual always.
Yeah. So tell me about each of those. Like, in terms of like what went into it and like what's the difference in those albums?
Which ones? Between And This Is Where
I
We
guess
Die.
any of them. Like, cause you had the white cover with the
In It, Not Of It. Mm-hmm. That
or no, not in it of it. The
Obisms too.
No, one of the ones you just put out. It was the. What was that? Sorry.
It has a black and white cover.
Yeah, and it's like the pic. It has like the frame, and it's like the circle. Molly, do you
And
want
This
to
Is Where We Die.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's
yeah.
one. And This Is Where We Die. It had
And
like
Ratchet Circus.
Oh yeah, forget about that one.
So okay, so you did that one. You did Ratchet Circus, and then you just put out Politicking.
Yeah.
So like, what's the difference between those 3 projects?
I would say from like a sound perspective, like Politicking is just like strictly kind of just spoken word stuff for me. Just like
I noticed that. Yeah.
Spoken word, you know, because I'm wanting to do that more this year, as opposed to like putting out rap, because I want to kind of just like see how experimentative I can get with like spoken word, because like it's an art where you can be super experimentative, you know. And I feel like I always have all these ideas that like I gotta hold myself back from. So Politicking was kind of like the introduction to what I'm wanting to do for this year and all that. So that's how it's different from, and this is where we die in Ratchet Circus. But and this is where we die in Ratchet Circus are so different because like even to kind of take back what I said, I kind of digress because Ratchet Circus was kind of like there was a concept to it, but it was still kind of just free flowing. Like I was just putting shit on there that like
kind of like a mixtape type of deal.
Exactly.
Okay.
It came from an idea, but it was like it wasn't a followed concept like my work usually is. Where and this is where we die was more so. That one's like an important piece of art to me because like that one just like I think like sound wise, just writing wise, and like the kind of things I experimented with like it just made it like a good piece. But that one's more conceptual than Ratchet Circus, and really politicking. I mean like politicking has the concept of just kind of like chopping it, like writing poetry about like things that I've kind of talked about with friends, like from a social political standpoint, which is why it's called politicking, just like stuff we've chopped it up about. So that's kind of the concept there, but it doesn't really have a story where like, and this is where we die kind of has a story to it,
Okay.
So that's how those ones are different for sure.
Okay. Well, I love that album, This Is Where We Die. I think probably my favorite track is Nihilism.
Oh yeah,
just because I'm kind of a pseudo nihilist myself.
Yeah, yep.
So like I kind of it's like a criticism on the institution essentially, from what I'd gathered.
Exactly.
And I loved it, man.
Yeah, I wanted to be both that and kind of like this kind of like inward journey to my process, I guess, how I was processing stuff. Because like, and this is where we die. Like that concept came from like when I was going to counseling and shit back in 2020, and like kind of going through like this whole. Like just like everybody, I should say just like everybody, but like for most people, like being comfortable with like sitting by myself in this isolation period, being on Zoom, teaching and all that, having more introvert time, but like having all this craziness go on like socially and all that, and like where it kind of took my brain and stuff like that. So I was written in that kind of time, but like because of all that shit, like I went to counseling and all that, But like in the counseling, while I was in counseling, I was reading books from like. Thich Nhat Hanh, who's like a Buddhist teacher. I was reading books by, I was reading The Alchemist. I don't know if you read that book, but it's a badass book. It's super fucking good. And I was reading A New Earth by like Eckhart Tolle, and like it was kind of this very like mental, emotional, spiritual shit I was kind of going through my mind, and like as I was kind of processing it, like through all these three things, like I was kind of learning about myself, like man, like I can like. Inevitably I'm gonna die here, like it's like we're all gonna die as humans and shit like that, but like there's kind of a choice in like how we can die, like you can either die like against your will, like being mad at shit, being offended by shit, like getting so overly involved with shit where like you just go mentally crazy and like and all that shit, which you kind of see that I feel like that's where a lot of kind of like the politics like we kind of saw happening in 2020 was that like people just like being so involved with this like idea that like they became these activists who were just always tired, angry, like overly angry and all that because like they didn't really like give themselves time to rest and shit like that. But you can die against your will, or like die in this place of like where I've kind of been trying to process of just like by your will, in the sense of just like accepting the shit that's like not accepting it in the sense of like, oh well that's okay, but like not being overly involved with shit. Like for me, I say it like this, like when it comes to like the ism of racism, which kind of like nihilism kind of speaks to a little bit, that shit is not gonna end. Like, in our best efforts, we're not gonna end this shit because like we've been in this shit for years, like,
forever.
That's when if people got egos, there's always gonna be racism, like in some kind of sense, whether it's like anything, it's gonna be a thing, for if it ends, I don't see it happening for thousands and thousands of years, so we're all just like died out with our old fucking ideas and shit. But with that said, like. What that kind of puts me in the place of is like, man, I can either be angry about this and like ignore it and live in this fantasy world where like everything's gonna change, which doesn't mean you shouldn't stop doing that, but it kind of means that I will hold a sense of realism, understanding like the shit that I do, like it's impactful for like right now in this space right now. Is it gonna be impactful for the grand scheme of things of stopping racism? Hell fucking no, I don't think so. Like, but it doesn't mean that like I'm just being a realist in that sense. It doesn't mean that I don't have a sense of like optimism and hope, but like if anything, I'm a lot more focused in that because I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus on things that I can change because I've accepted the shit that I died by my will, died to this idea of like not suffering unnecessarily, and just being like, you know what, like I accept this happens. I'm going to accept that like homie, I don't know who it was. There was like a politician that my aunt sent me like a couple days ago this politician who like straight up said in their like political run. I gotta look up his name actually now I think about it, but he said he straight up said like, "Do you hate Mexicans?" He straight up said it. Like, and I gotta accept like there's people out here who do this. Like, I could be angry about it and like bring myself a sense of lack of peace, anger, wanting to try to cancel this guy on Twitter and shit like that. But that's a waste of time, you know. It's just like if I learn to just accept the shit, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what and this is where we die is like it's just kind of like really kind of unfolding that kind of like narrative what that looks like and like how like I had nihilism here. I went through kind of like self-conflicting ideas here, like maybe I should be more violent like everybody's being, and like it kind of shows how I progressively move through that idea of just like, and this is where we die, you know. So.
Yeah, man. You know, and that's what I love about you as a creator is like, I was just kind of thinking about this watching Atlanta before. Like, there's a big when it comes to like black media. There's a difference between like black media made by black people and black media made by white people, like made by white people for white people.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was having this conversation with young creators, and we kind of talked about this, like understanding where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. What are your thoughts on like people kind of say that there's like kind of like a black wash in the media, or like kind of like a gay wash? Like there seems to be kind of like a target. I don't know. This is obviously my perspective.
Oh no, do it. No.
But there seems to be like a target against like the straight white male. Like I don't know, if you like go on Hulu and you watch all the ads, like it's hard to find a straight white male. And I'm not saying that like I'm offended by that. There's anything wrong with that, but it does kind of like you're not doing it correctly. You know, the people who are running everything are still the same people. Yeah. It's obvious. It's like so like painstakingly obvious that they're just like filling these people and they're tokenizing people.
Oh yeah, for the sake of capital, for the sake of capital, you know.
Exactly. Like that's what Malcolm X talked about that. You know, he talked about like the dangers of liberals, like how they will use black people as tokenism. Yeah. You know.
No, it's super true. I mean, I can even speak to like just my personal narrative of like why I kind of choose to like move the way I do, like with what I do art wise. Like I'm very like when like I would say from 2020 up to this present moment, like what it kind of taught me was to be very mindful about like places that reach out to me for wanting like interviews, or certain places wanting me at their venues to work for them, like these all white establishments and all that. And like when I say white, it's more so like I'm talking about an idea than a person, you know? Yeah.
Well, and that's what I liked about we were going to talk about those two, Atlanta.
I
think they mentioned that in that first step, like
with the conversation with them on the boat.
Yeah,
it's crazy and that's why I love it so much, because I'm like, man, like I've thought about this for months. Like the fact that Donald Glover's there and like he's did the way he did is like, that's super dope. Like that's my whole thing. Like it's more so an idea than like the actual person. Like that's why you have like white people over here who kind of like get it and all that are cool, because they don't abide by the idea that's kind of created of whiteness, you know. There's black folks who abide by the idea of whiteness, you know. The Clayton Bigsby's and shit.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
you know who that's referencing, right?
The which one?
Clayton Bigsby from the Dave Chappelle show when he played the black white supremacist.
That's what his name is.
Yeah, Clayton
I
Bigsby.
did see. I haven't watched all of it, but I've seen a couple of clips. That shit's pretty funny.
Yeah, but like that's real, you know. Like it's not like that extreme. Like from what I have seen, I'll say that, because it could be out there for sure. But
there's some black guy out there who's like totally with it. You know, he's like hiding in a clan.
Yeah, it's just like, you know what?
There's one. There's gotta be one.
It comes up like, what's the point? Like, I'm not even gonna try to convince you. I know whatever I say is not gonna convince you that like this is kind of weird. Like,
there's some poor fucker.
Understand, brother? Like, don't ever call me that.
There's some poor fucker in Iowa who's just like he has no idea what any history of black people, and he's just like fucking Ku Klux Klan.
And they're just letting it happen again, because like that makes them look better, but like all to go around it's like it's the irony or the contradiction. Like, oh, we're gonna have this brother over here because once we have a black KKK member, it's gonna show black folks that we are white and we're all right. Like that's just, you know. But I think the thing about it is like, so it's kind of taught me to kind of be mindful of like who I work with, because like one thing that I noticed most when with 2020 was the value of people that reached out to me for doing certain things, like white establishments and all that, who wanted me to like come to their news channels and do like a monthly like Black Lives Matter conversation talk on their platforms. Like really big platforms have thousands of followers, and I said, hell no, like, because I know what you're wanting to do. Like, I'm not gonna have a real conversation there. You guys are gonna talk about some surface shit just to look good, possibly get some grants, which is not gonna go to the black community. You guys are keep it to yourselves. Like, fuck you. Like I said, it. Fuck you. Like I see what you're doing. Like I'm not stupid. We ain't stupid. But no, it really is a thing, man. That's why like I'm very mindful and like with what I do art wise. Like I don't really do a lot of shit in Iowa City, and like not to like knock Iowa City because like they're on some really dope poetry shit. I want to say it because like my homie Caleb Rainey's from out there. I know a lot of good people out there, but again, it's just like one of those things. Like it's just my observations and stuff. But like I feel like there is kind of a tokenizing of like black art because just like it's not because like it's. I feel like when you go out there as a creative, it's not because of like your creative talent, but just because you're black and you happen to be creative. You know, like I just don't like those spaces. Like I like to go to places where like I know that like I'm looked at as just I like to affiliate with spaces that like are most sort of like that they don't care about the capital behind it. They're like yo like because there's some places too that I've worked with. QC Arts is actually a really dope spot. Actually, the QC Arts I gotta really like give them like kind of praise. Like I'm grateful for just like working with them, but like because I worked on a project, my Aubs 2 project. You know,
yeah.
Spoken word project. I think I told you about this.
You
before.
did tell me about that, yeah.
But like how like
did they give you the money for that project?
Yeah, I got a grant through that project, you know. But like with them kind of like working with me, like having me teach their workshops and stuff like that, knowing like who I am and how like that could like offend their like white conservative grant givers and all that, they're still like, you know, fuck it, we still gonna work with you, like you gonna teach and all this, like that's dope. You can tell when people are doing it from a genuine place where they just want to work with you and not thinking about capital because they don't, you know what, like they don't make capital off me, you know. But there are places that like the place that my open mic was at last, that I had actually last night. It was just a few months ago. It was at a coffee shop called the Iron and Grain Coffee House. It's in Davenport, right? So we had our open mic there for 3 months, and how that went about was that one of the owners, I guess, reached out to me through email and asked if I could meet them on Zoom and kind of like talk about starting an open mic at their establishment. And like off bat had the interview with them and stuff like that. And I was like, yo, like we'll start it. Like we won't even charge you for the first one. We're just gonna have it because like community needs that shit right now, you know. So we started that one, and we brought them pretty good business. Like it was after their business hours and stuff like that. That was the only thing that they said, like I was after our business hours and all that. But we'll just have people there and all that still. So I thought that was dope that they kept the doors open like that. But we had an open mic, so we were like, we pulled in at least 35 people per show, you know, and like a lot of black, like majority of them black people, which is like big. Like black people don't go to like establishments like Iron and Gray and like. Especially the shit that happened at Starbucks. Like, you think black people try to go to coffee shops? Like, they're taking risks. Like,
what happened? Like, people getting shot or what?
No, did you know about the Starbucks thing that happened? Like, it was like a few years ago.
No, Molly, do you want to pull that up?
Yeah, there was a couple black dudes who were just chilling at Starbucks, and cops literally came there and arrested them just for sitting at Starbucks because they were just chilling, and somebody was like scared or nervous about them and called the cops. And these dudes literally just got arrested in the coffee shop at Starbucks. So for me, I'm just like, we see that shit. Like, no black people are trying to go to coffee shops like that. But for me to pull in, for us at Roaring Reading to put in like a whole black crowd at like establishment like that, like that's a bridging of community. It's communities that's happening, you know.
Man arrested at Philadelphia Starbucks. Speak out. Police commissioner apologizes. Mm-hmm. So they got arrested or they got shot?
No, they got arrested. Just
nobody said anything about shooting.
Okay.
Who got shot?
This is the woke white person. Who got shot? What began as an opportunity to talk real estate at Philadelphia coffee shop ended in the arrest of 2 black men has launched a week of outrage protest.
There's like a video.
See, that's kind of, I mean, I'm not supporting Starbucks by any means. That's kind of bullshit of like how Starbucks has to like vow to do better.
Yeah, right.
Like, what does Starbucks have to do with that?
You know what they did? They shut it down for a couple months and like did like workshops on racism. I'm like,
yeah,
man,
because that works.
It's like that
helps every time.
Yeah, it's like half of them ain't even paying attention.
There's like, what? Are you kidding me? Of course, that happened in Philadelphia too. You know. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, we're good on that, but.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like for me, like to go back around to that, what that considered, like when people see that stuff, it makes them think differently about their environments and all that. That's why, like, at home, like, you don't really see a lot of black people go to coffee shops anymore for shit, you know. You'll see them at black-owned bars and shit like that, but not coffee shops. So for us, like, as Roaring Rhetoric, like, having, like, a majority, like, a lot of, like, 85 to 90% of, like, the audience members of those 35 being black, like, that's big, you know. That's super dope. Like, that means, like, yo, we feel safe here. We feel cool here. Like, we can listen to this and know that there ain't gonna be no bullshit, you know. Like, we put in a lot of numbers. And for me, and this is just my theory in my head, just thinking about the politics of it, I think they noticed that from, like, because these people were coming in and still buying food. Like, they're buying food, sandwiches, all that. Like, they were making money after hours, you know. We were making a business money after hours. Like, that's on paper. That can be on paper, you know. But that's why I think they later they reached out to me saying that they wanted to start a second one. So they wanted me to have 2 a month. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, for the second one, though, like, we'll need to have like a 70-30 split, 70 to you guys and 30 to us, because I got to pay my DJ, because like this is what he does as a job, like, and we need money to like put into promo to like all the more bring more people into your business, you know. I'm always thinking about those things, so that's why like I'm not thinking of it just for my sake, but like I'm thinking about for y'all, like this could be a good business move for y'all if you give us 30%. That's gonna go to promotions, and like we're able to like promote all over, you know, from our different demographics. And they're like, okay, well, let's think about that for a minute. They didn't get back to me, I think, till like a month later. And they hit me back with the email saying like, oh, well, we can't do that. We're just going to cut all the open mics in general. Aww. I'm like, what? I was like, okay, you know what? It's cool. It's cool. We're going to talk about this at the last open mic. So I had the last open mic go, and I told people like, yo, like, if you come in, just get water. Don't buy anything tonight. And it'll make sense in the end of this. Just don't buy anything. And at the end of my open mic, I told them what happened just straight up. I wasn't lying about nothing. I was like, yo, like, we're ending it here because Iron and Grain doesn't want to pay creatives just 30% of the 7% of what they make off of what you guys buy. 30%. That's all we were asking. Like, I told them, like, this goes back around. I didn't make it like this racism thing. I'm also just pointing out the capitalism of it. Like, yeah, they're more okay with us doing things for free that bring worth to them and are bringing money to them. But as soon as we ask for money, we get completely cut. It's just like that shows that like there's not a worth in this. People don't give worth to art in this community, and that's the problem. And like I gave my last spiel, name dropped them and shit like that. I was like, that's my last like, man, boom. But now we're at Ross Talks, and last night we had 75 people.
Hey, there you go.
At our open mic, you know, we were like 15 over capacity. So I'm like, I think people now, like with me saying that, like made people understand the worth. But like with what you were saying, like it's all capitalism game, you know, like it is like very like, okay, we want these black people to kind of like be in these spaces and do stuff for us, because like that gets us more money. We can get more grants. It makes us feel a little better about ourselves, and like we'll cut them off later, you know. But we're doing something right now, and right now is all that matters. Like it's all business, you know. And it's just like, yeah, that's why I'm very mindful about who I work with, honestly.
Yeah.
You know? And it may seem like one of those like, oh, like that's racist, or like that you only work with like, and I shouldn't say I only work with like black business, because like again, black business can be on some bullshit too. Like, they can abide by that the white idea of capitalism too. Like it's just like it's not absolving them, but it's just like I've learned to be very like mindful of like who I work with.
Yeah. But that's kind of the beauty of capitalism in a sense, you know, because like now your business is pretty legitimate. Like the guy, you know, Molly might hate me for saying this, but like it's kind of like the gay wedding cake when that whole thing happened. You know, like that was really controversial, and that business was shitty.
Oh,
but like,
yeah, the one that refused to make the wedding cake.
Yeah, exactly. And like, but like government intervention wasn't really needed. Like that business went out. Like you didn't need to put a law in; they went out of business.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
you know. Like that, and that's kind of this is getting into kind of my side of how I, you know, libertarianism or whatever. But like, people have the power to like allow businesses to thrive or fail. Yeah, and like businesses, you know, if they want to make really shitty business practices, you know, it's to them. Like, okay, like even when in terms of like, you know, business segregating, like if Walmart tomorrow was like, no black people allowed in Walmart. Which would be a stupid ass idea. Yeah. Let's say they did that.
Right. Lose a lot of customers.
But let's say they did that. Like, I would stop going to Walmart, you know, and most decent people would just be like, yeah, fuck Walmart. We're not going to, you know, go to Walmart.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a thought. Anyways.
No, that's true. And the thing about it is, too, it's just like it's what these people who like have these like bad business practices, too. I think the biggest part that like rubs the wrong way, too, is like they try to act like they aren't doing what they're doing, you know. And I say that because like, after the Iron Grain thing, like I think a month later, this was only a couple weeks ago, I had a lady reach out to me and like make this super freaking long post on my comment because I mentioned on my Facebook too what had happened too, and like it was already kind of a month after the fact. But this lady, which at that point I was like, you've been waiting to like build this up in your head, like you're waiting a month after to like make this long ass comment, like you've been thinking about this, like the fact that you know where this comment is a month later, like you've been watching this for a minute. But she left this long comment, pretty much like vouching for the business that kind of like discontinued our Iron and Grit, who discontinued our open mic by saying pretty much essentially that like, oh, like, well, it's hard out here for businesses, like it might seem like they cut you off and all that, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, you know what, I get it. And I didn't say this to her because like it's one of those things that the nihilism, like I'm not even gonna try to explain myself to you, like cool, if that's what you think, whatever.
Yeah,
but
it's not worth it.
For me,
yeah.
This specific coffee shop, they've been planning like 4 or 5 different campuses all over the Quad Cities. Like that's money there. So I'm like, you can't tell me that businesses, like, yeah, I understand that businesses are like struggling right now with the pandemic, but you can't tell me specifically that applies. Like, not saying they don't have struggles, but to be able to open another like Iron and Grain coffee shop in the region, like that's money. So you're saying like even out of that, if we just took 30% of that, like that would have been that would have put them in a bad place. Like I don't think that's true, you know. But it's just like the fact that you guys can't admit that you're doing the shit that you do. It's just like, man, like that's why I'm very mindful now, you know.
Yeah, well, and that's all you can do, you know. And it's good that you're smart about that. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, people just need to be like educated and be like, you know, see through like the tokenism. Mm-hmm. You know, that's like there are a lot of people on the east side or East Iowa. I don't want to offend, you know, not that I don't want to offend them, but like, sorry, I guess. But like, I do feel like there is kind of like more of like a woke culture like in those cities, I've noticed.
Oh yeah,
like just from like people there and like interviewing them, I'm like, you kind of just get a sense of it, you know. And it's here in Des Moines, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But like you just you just get kind of a sense from it in those cities.
Yeah,
you know?
you just kind of feel it.
Tim Dillon did like he had a whole thing where he's a comedian. He's like this gay guy. He just says like outlandish crazy shit.
Yeah.
And you know, because he would like talk. He would talk about COVID and all that. And the people in Iowa City that were going to host him actually like sent him an email like he was like in an email thread. Mm-hmm. And they were like complaining about him in the email thread. So he just did this podcast. He was just shutting out Iowa City. He was like, yeah, some blue-haired tech bitch fucking
they're out of I heard blue-haired. I was like, oh yeah, they were at your neck.
I was like, God, that's so true. That's so true.
These new like quote unquote activists, they on some different shit. They're coming with blue hair and all of that coming to. I get that, you know. And it's just like, yeah, you just gotta know how to maneuver. That's the thing. That's what I think I've learned, man. Like it's obviously like I've learned just like with that, like I've learned to just say my shit. Like if I see something and I know you're not gonna get it, I've learned to handle the nuance of like being nihilistic about like the shit, being like, okay, this is useless at the end of the day, but like just in case, I'm still gonna say this shit, and like I'm gonna say it in a way that's not really like you're gonna tell that I'm mad, but like I'm gonna keep it like still like I've learned there's politics to it, you know. There's politics to like how you kind of move, especially like with me being in a space of just like starting like my own business and working in the communities more with like education from a different standpoint and like being kind of seen for artists. It's like, okay, I can still be myself, but like there's politics to it where like if I notice shit that's happening, like I'm gonna just tell you about it, you know. Like it's because like the school that I left, the school that I quit, it was the same situation, you know. And like it's funny, like we were saying it off camera, but like I feel like my last podcast, like I was at the school and you said that's like you made that sentiment of saying like, man, like it's cool to see you in the school because I don't really see you like fitting in the school system. Like this motherfucker called it because I quit that shit. I quit High Roads of the Quad Cities and East Moline. We're gonna talk about why.
You might have beat me in chess, but I beat you in real life.
Right. Right. Exactly. Months ahead. Like he prophesied that shit. He was like, he just saw into the future. He just saw me quitting my job as I was walking out. He's like, you just don't feel like you fit in. I just don't feel like you fit in. So I had a crystal ball moment. But like, yeah, like I left. My whole thing of leaving that school was with that was like, man, first of all, like I was going through a lot of bullshit with it, you know. Like I was the whole, I mean, as an educator, like what I was doing was like amazing with the kids. Like teachers can vouch for that. Like teachers who see me like work with the kids that I do, like at the behavior school and all that, and I would handle shit. Like I had it on lock with that, and that just comes with experience, you know. Just like working in a school system with behavior kids so long, you just know like how to kind of maneuver. And again, like having that kind of like mindfulness and self-awareness, knowing that like like knowing how to like practice that in the school building and stuff like that. Like I was dope with the kids that I work with for sure. But I was given a whole bunch of just like, I was just given a bad hand, as like a lot of the teachers that I work with kind of told me, like when I was quitting and stuff like that, where like I was like, they're always like, I didn't have a consistent like staff member in there. There always been like different staff members, and sometimes like they would just leave me there in the room by myself, which like you couldn't by law do. You know, like if there's 10 students if there's more than 10 students in the room, you need like a teacher and a paraeducator in there for every 10 students. There's got to be another staff member. You know. But there was times where like I was like kind of left alone by myself, like work with 10 students, you know, like students who like this student over here had like a third grade like writing level. This student over here has PTSD. This student over here is a special needs student who spits everywhere, who doesn't belong in the classroom, but they try to guilt me into like keeping them saying like, well, I feel like you're not being attentive to this student enough. Like we feel like you're being we're concerned that you're being discriminatory towards students. Like, bitch, like I got a behavior classroom with 9 other kids. I can go over here like worry about this kid spitting everywhere and like running around. Like I got to run a classroom. Like what the fuck you want me to do? But like I had that shit kind of like where I was kind of put in that kind of position, and like I wasn't giving support in my classroom, you know, like if I called down for like simple things like a student cussing in my classroom and saying like, oh, I need somebody down here to get the student, there'd be 10 minutes going by, the student going crazy, throwing shit at students, punching students. I'm like, I need somebody down here, you know. Didn't get anybody down there till after the fact or just like late, you know. And even for little things, if I ever wanted to like leave for the bathroom, I had to call down like 5 times for nobody to answer. So I got to a place where I'm like, fuck it. Like if I go get a bathroom, I'm walking down to this bitch and I'm just going to train these students to be like, well, when I leave the room, you guys are quiet. I had to like literally, I had a whole 2 weeks where I was training them what to do when I leave to the bathroom. Like, yo, you sit in your shit, sit in your desk, like do what you're supposed to do. Like, because I got to go to the bathroom. You guys get it, right? You know, and they're junior high kids. For the most part, like, yeah, man, it's bogus that that they're doing that to you. Like, even the kids were seeing this shit. It's like, that's bogus to do. And say, yeah, like, Mr. Aubrey, go to the bathroom. We got it on lockdown here. It's like, thank you, you know? So, like, I had to do little things like that, which is against, like,
school you come back and half your classroom's dead.
Right. But
oh, no. Right. I'm going to lose my job now.
Just walk out real quick. Walk out real quick. It's just like, don't say nothing to nobody. But I think it's you know, I low-key like always had that worry when like I was like, man, what if I come back and like this kid's fighting this dude and punching somebody in your face? Like, man. But I think it kind of goes to like, again, like I just taught the kids how to like, yo, like when I leave the room, this is what we do. And again, like they just kind of got it, you know. And they understood because they kind of saw the shit happening. Because, like, again, I kept also my students, too. Like, yo, like, I'm not getting any support here, guys, so I got to go to the bathroom. It's like, we get it, Mr. Like, if you keep it honest with kids, they just get it, you know, as opposed to giving them some kind of bullshit-ass reason, you know. But with that, I wasn't getting the support that I needed. And there was one, like, and again, like, I show up, like, to the point where, like, I'd show up 2 hours early, like, to my school. To like get shit done because I knew that I wasn't gonna get the support that I needed. So I showed up every morning at like 6 a.m. when school didn't really start to 8 a.m. because I know like I got to be here early, get all this shit in order. But like they kind of treated me as like glorified paraeducators. What I tell people like because they pulled me out of my room to like walk around with a student for 2 hours while they took over my room and start teaching. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, so you guys ain't even gonna support me in that, you know? But there was a situation that happened where like I had a student. A white student, again, like 16 years old, who had the habit of like calling me the N-word whenever she got mad, like just saying it,
dude,
like,
what?
Fuck you, you know, all that bullshit, you know, like, and for me, like at first, like I get it, like I know the territory I'm working in, so I'm not gonna take it offensive, like I'm not gonna take offense to it, but I'm gonna be at the same time like, yo, like if she's saying it here, she's gonna say it out there to the wrong people who don't have as much of a mindfulness as me.
Yeah, for real.
They will beat their brakes off that girl, like in the most ugly way. So I'm like, yo, like
you're Will Smith, yeah.
They will keep my motherfucking name out your goddamn mouth. On some real shit.
That's my word,
right? That is ours. But with that considered, I was doing what I can, like, yo, like, pretty much telling the schools, like, we gotta, like, fix that, you know, because she's going in here thinking that she can say it to me, and, like, that's going to translate to outside of here, so, like, my school kept saying that they would do something about it, but, like, whenever I'd send the kid out in the hallway for doing that shit, I would, like, be like, I gave her assignments that she needed to do before she could come back to my class, you know, which revolved around saying that word, but, like, whenever I went out to the hallways for a bathroom break or something, I saw, like, teachers, like, rewarding her with candy, games and all that. And I'm like, yo, like you're reinforcing bad behavior right now. Like in her mind, she's like, oh, I can call Mr. Aubrey the N-word and still get candy and hugs and all this. Like I get being there for these students because they go through hard shit. Yeah, you have to. Like they go through very traumatic shit. They go through very like shitty shit. But like, how much are we holding them accountable for the shit they shouldn't do at the same time? Like, you don't hold them accountable by saying, like, oh, we're just going to forget that you said that. And like, oh, here's because the power of love is going to change you and all that. It's like, man, that's true, but fuck that shit. Like, you got to be able at the same time, like, love keeps people accountable. Like, okay, because like I care about you as a student, you cannot say that shit because though I'm taking it, when you say it out there surround people, they're going to beat the brakes off you. And I don't want to see that. It's like, you got to have that type of accountability. And for that to not be happening in school, and like, it kind of made me feel some type of way. It's like, okay, they don't respect me. And like with what I'm trying to do, no matter all this, like, oh, like that's completely wrong that she called you that. We're gonna do something about that because we don't stand for that here. It's like, man, you gotta stand for it the last 6 times. Shut the fuck up. Like, don't give me that shit. Like, trying to make me feel better about shit. But there was a situation that happened that like she said it in my room again, and like I told her to leave. I was like, okay, we're gonna get out of my room, and she threw a punch at me. So I grab her hand and I walk her out of the room. That's my first mistake though, like, cause like again with law and all that, like if you're escorting a student out, there has to be 2 of you, cause that other one can kind of vouch for you. You know,
fuck.
but I didn't really have that. They weren't helping me, you know. So I'm like, okay, like though they keep saying call down. Like I've called down before, and you guys haven't done shit. Like don't give me that bullshit. Like fuck that. So I'm like, okay, I just need to take her out myself. And in that moment, I was mad, I was heated, cause I'm like, yo, she really thinks like I gotta be the one laying it down with her because they're not doing it. So I'm taking her out of my room. This is the other thing that happened that like made the situation like look bad for me. Like just the whole day I took an L. I'm not gonna lie, but like it's because I was mentally burnt out and I was fed up with shit. So like that's what happened there, you know. But the student who I was taking out of my classroom, I'm walking her down the hall because like there's a designated area I created for her to go when she has a behavior in my classroom. I'm like, okay, you're gonna go down here, you're gonna do your shit because I can see you, and then you come back when I know you're ready. So I'm walking her down this way. Teachers are coming out because the students screaming the N-word and yelling and all this, and like fighting and struggling with me. And right when I get her to her seat, I trip, you know, and like she falls with me, but I catch myself. But like I let go of her, and she just falls down. And like the student's a pathological liar for real. Like that's in her. That was like that's her thing, her characteristic. So like when she fell, she capitalized on that moment. Like was holding her arm and all that. And like the teachers caught me saying like yelling in her face, "Don't call me a nigger again." And I just walk out like fuck this shit. It's like in that moment it looked like I threw her down and like cussed her face. That's the other L I took with that. And I told the teacher next door across from my classroom, I was like, hey, can you have a pair walk over there because I'm leaving right now. I'm burnt out. I gotta leave. So I left for a little bit. The third thing that like it was a thing that like, and this kind of speaks to like the implicit bias that is in the schools too. Like I've seen in my last 8 years, I've seen white teachers do that, walk out when they need to because their mental health is not well and all that, and they're completely fine with that. But when I did it, cussing and all this, that, and the other, like it's like, oh shit, we're gonna use that against you, like because I'm perceived more as angry. I'm more perceived as an angry black person. A white teacher that does is like, oh, she's just not mentally well. She's carrying a lot. So that's what I walked into when I walked out of the school. Took my little break, went to Chick-fil-A and got like a large fry because I'm like, this is going to calm me down.
Yeah.
Drive back to the school and my principal calls me to her office. And he's like, so is it true that you left school like for a little bit for a break? I was like, yeah. Did you tell anybody? At the moment I said no because I didn't remember that I told the teacher who I told because I wasn't thinking, like I was already mentally burnt out. So I'm like, I said no when I actually did and didn't think about that later because that was something else for them to use against me for my case now that they wanted to put against because I was asking too much of them. I was kind of holding them accountable for stuff. And I was just very cynical with how they're kind of treating education there. And like they knew that because I wasn't kissing nobody's ass. I wasn't like I talked about how dumb meetings were, like some of them like outwardly and just like even talk like looking at little things. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So like me being that there was like, okay, we got to get him out of here, like in some kind of way, shape, or form. So like it all made sense. Like they didn't give me a staff because they were trying to get me out of here. They knew it was going to bring me out, and they were waiting for this moment to happen where I had this meltdown and went back to the school and said like, hey teacher, like keep that fucking student in here. That's another mistake I made. I said fucking student, and they took that as me cussing at the student, and then tried to say like, they asked me a question of like, so do you abuse the kids in your classroom? I'm like, where are you getting that from? What? Like, you know that's not the case. I'm like, why would they say something like that? And like after that day, they had me like leave. I was like, we're gonna have you leave for the day and all that. And for me, I know what that means. When they say they're gonna have you leave for the day, they're planning on like firing you, and they already have their little case against you. So I called my boy from Chicago, who's also an educator, and like he has his master's in education. He works in the Chicago school system. So I'm like, yo, like, hey, am I tripping? Like, this is what happened. So I told him everything that happened. And he's like, yo, like, you need to put in that resignation letter. I've seen this millions of times. Like, they got a case against you. Like, these little things that you did, like, yeah, you didn't do them, but they got a case against you, and like, they're gonna try to fire you. Like, you better get that resignation letter ready. So like, with my writing ass, I was like, bet. It's like, we're gonna switch from poetry real
Piece
quick
of cake.
and write this fucking
Do this in 15 minutes, motherfucker.
dissertation type like resignation letter. This bitch was like detailed. Like, I detailed the things that I was going through, the things that they put me through, was quoting certain moments, was bringing up certain days. I put this all in this like resignation letter, sent it to the school, sent it to HR, and then I sent it to the founder of the High Road School. So I was like, fuck you guys, like, fuck you. That was just my like, I see what you guys tried to do there. But like,
congratulations.
but it was, bro, I'm telling you. And there's teachers right now, like, there's actually like, I'm not even gonna call her out by name because I don't want to put her biz out there. But like, this goes to show, like, this is one of the texts that I got from one of these teachers when everything was going down, when I told them that I was quitting. So one of the teachers there said, like, so when I told them that I'm resigning, they're like, Aubrey, please call HR. I will be calling for you. This is a white teacher. They set you up for failure from the very beginning. This is so wrong. Also called the NAACP. This is discrimination. I will talk on your behalf if needed, and all that stuff. So like, they saw from the get-go how it was being set up. It's a text message that I saved, like, okay, we're gonna keep this shit just for some shit that happens in the future, because like, they saw from the get-go that they were setting me up to like really not like work there anymore. And that's, I think that speaks to like why you don't see a lot of black educators staying with the position, because we're putting that place again of like dying against or by our will, you know, the whole and this is where we die project concept, which is like, you either die and abide by this damn school system that you know is fucked up, that you know ain't working for the kids, but you just do it because you got to do it, or you're like, nah, I ain't gonna do this shit, like, but I'm gonna have you guys pay me to walk into your school under my own shit, so I can still do what I'm supposed to do, you know. But I don't know, after that, it really just made me like realize, like, man, like, this shit is politics, you know, like this whole school shit.
Yeah.
They don't think about the kids in the politics. Like, it's all a money grab. It's a money grab, position grab. That's all it is. And you see, we're seeing it all over the country. Like, there's I'm not the only teacher that's like, I'm not a special case. There's other teachers in all other different countries around here. Like, you go to YouTube and type in why I quit teaching, you'll find like 50 videos made in the last year. Probably like, in the last 2 months is what I saw, honestly, the most. But you see teachers everywhere like, yo, like, we quit because like we see all the bullshit in this. That's why I think like education is looking different too, where like people are having like more homeschooling like curriculum plans for online and all that, because they're like noticing like, yo, like, these teachers really ain't shit. And it's just like, again, that's not generalizing obviously, but it's I should say the school system ain't shit, and some of the teachers who abide by it ain't shit. You know, because there's teachers who are in the field who are really trying to change shit. One of my friends actually got fired for kind of like the kind of being in the same place that I was, because like they were trying to find ways to kind of get her out, because she was a real educator, and like, yo, this is gonna kind of threaten our pockets and all this is that and the other, and like make us feel more responsible than we want to. So we're gonna like terminate this person, you know. And it's just like it's showing that like the school system ain't really doing what it's supposed to do, you know.
Yeah, damn. That's just a sad fucking display.
Mm-hmm. You, man.
Fuck the institution.
And that's why I kind of started my own shit. Like, it's after I quit and all that, like, after that, I kind of decided, I was like, man, like, I've been working in schools for 8 years. Like, I've been working at various schools for 8 years, and like, I've seen a whole bunch of shit. I've heard a whole bunch of shit. Like, I don't think I have trust in like what this is anymore. Like, I have trust in it, but it's very kind of like, I don't know still, you know. So it's almost it's almost like the same thing you have with cops. Like, man, like, as a human being, I trust you, but still, like, there's just something about this that you're in that I don't want to like abide by, you know. So like, that's where kind of like I made a decision to start my own program, nonprofit, that like works within the field of education alongside of schools and like after school programs, shit like that. But I get to have the freedom of teaching how I want, not worrying about all these little political things like the fucking behavior plans, the paperwork, the useless paperwork. Like, I get to do what like I want to do, which is educate and not worry about the politics to an extent, you know, because there is some politics to it, but it just looks different. Yeah,
man, I love that. That's very libertarian, honestly.
Man,
Like, I feel like everyone I know currently that's in education, like their morale's just low. They're like, they even admit, like, even the people that are really in, they're like, yeah, it's, You know, because I think COVID really revealed a lot of that too.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
literally bringing like the parents getting to sit in and see what they're doing over Zoom, and they're like, "This is fucking awful." Like,
Just hearing how teachers are talking to their kids and shit like that. Yeah, it's like,
it really is bringing like a movement of like homeschooling. And,
it really is.
I don't know. It's, you know, and there's good and bad to that. Obviously, there are people who are going to get homeschooled, and it's going to be fucking awful for them. But
yeah,
you know, I think also. This is me personally. I think like also putting people in that environment is like very limiting, and also in this day and age dangerous. Like think of how many school shootings there are. You're like forcing people to like literally being like a gridlock environment. Like anyone can just come
and just no, it's real shit,
like we were
though.
joking earlier about like your class, you know, showing up in your class is half dead, but like that could actually fucking happen.
Really,
you know?
It could really happen out here. You know, so it's just like it's very nuanced. You know, I think like I'm not like I understand the homeschooling thing. I think like what it does though, it's just like school at the end of the day, like it's good for like the social interactions the kids are gonna have with other human beings, learning how to share the space with other human beings and all that, you know. So I think like that's an important part that misses and all that, but like at the same time, like it's just like I do see like the benefit of it, you know, especially just seeing these teachers and stuff, like just knowing these teachers. I shouldn't even say just seeing these teachers, but just knowing how they act, knowing why they teach, knowing how they don't give a fuck about it. It's like, yeah, maybe you are better off just teaching your kid than this piece of shit that decided to get a degree in this for some reason. I get it, you know, but it's very like it's cool to see it changing though, like and seeing the shift and all that. Like I have a homie right now who has this program called the STEM and Learning program. It's a really dope business actually, like that kind of like that works with like other schools and like families internationally, where they like have like a curriculum where their kid can like learn things from home, like whether it's English, history, social studies. I think they're adding trades on there as well, and they're actually bringing me on to like teach poetry and shit like that, you know. But seeing their program and how like it's one that's kind of reached outside like U.S. boundaries, stuff like that, showing how like this new need of there's education shifting, you know. It's kind of cool seeing that shift and like how that kind of like plays out, because like that shit really does, like it's as it is now, it's just like it's good, it's essential, but with how we're doing it's pretty shitty, you know.
Yeah, well, and you know, like kind of talking about what you do, like there's other companies like Delta V through Nuboco, who we just had him on, Rob Merritt. Our most popular episode to date, 500 views.
Oh,
which is
hey,
fucking
look
crazy.
at that. That's dope as hell.
But his company, the Delta V company that he helps with, they teach programming, and it's like a 6-month intense vigorous program where they just get like a 6-month deal, and then they have a degree, and they're getting a job that pays whatever $70,000-$80,000 an hour, probably in a lot of cases. In my opinion, that's like the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? It's like putting people in that like.
At least they should have that option.
Yeah,
at the very least,
it should be an option. You know, because I understand like there's some things that like you'll probably need like traditional college for, like fucking being a surgeon. Like you're not gonna learn that shit off YouTube or. You're not practicing on no fucking human beings. Like, yeah, go to school for that shit. Like, yeah, you stay. If you're trying to be a surgeon, like, don't try to do no homeschooling shit. But I think for the most part, like, it's one thing that I'm always making I make a point to like tell any kid that I work with at any of the schools I work at now. Like, I make it a point to them like, yo, like, as good as college is, like, and if there's shit you got to go to college for, like, you don't necessarily have to take the path to make money, make a living, and do what you love. Like, there's literally YouTubers right now making money off fucking YouTube. There's literally people making money off of Instagram, Spotify, TikTok, and all that. I don't know TikTok because I don't know if TikTok monetized or anything, but like my point is in that, it creates a sense of business for people that people have learned to kind of capitalize off. Because like, I'm glad to know that, because like I think about people like I think consciously. I'll talk about that TikToker. Have you heard of Consciously before?
What, consciously? Like it's like a person or a group?
Yeah, it's a person. That's his TikTok and all that. That's what he's known at. He's a super dope dude. Like he's very kind of like, he just talks about like certain breakdowns of politics. I mean, there's things like with anything I disagree with him on, but like his platform has like been a very educational piece for people to kind of like view, and like he has 8 million views, and like though you're not making money off TikTok, he's learned how to like capitalize that and be like, okay, I teach workshops, I come to your schools and speak and all that, and like that's smart. And for him to learn that, that's something that you don't necessarily need to go to college for. Like it's all just practicing experience and learning how to kind of learn from people around you, So I always make that sense to tell students that, because like I think it's important for them to know that in this day and age that like, because they're getting the same rhetoric that we got when we were like in high school, like, oh, you got to go to college, you got to go to college, you got to go to college, and they're not hearing any other alternate way. Because like, what if the dude down the street don't want to go to college? What if he just wants to do rap? Like, he literally can learn how to like make money as a rapper now because there's so many things around him, so many people, A&Rs, people who do music full time and make money. Like, they can learn from right now. Like, if he wants to do that, like, he shouldn't go to fucking Sale Academy or whatever that does music and all that. Like, he learned that right now, you know. And I think I think just knowing that and seeing like how education's kind of like turning to that now, you know, where it's kind of like we're trying. I feel like that's a good. I like it just because it's giving an alternate path and something that's gonna put you in debt, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. Like, I go through DMAC for my video stuff, my video production, and I feel like it's almost like just more of like a resource for funding your own things and giving you like, you know, both tools and education rather than like a structured university environment for film.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like a lot of stuff that we and like, you know, like even through like podcasting, like having people like that work in film on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I've learned a lot from just like sitting down with someone like that for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like a lot, like probably an equal amount to like what I've learned at DMAC. It truly is amazing, like what kind of information the internet has on. And, you know, there's the controversy of mismal and disinformation, as the Department of Homeland Security puts it.
Yeah. No, seriously. But it's funny that you say that, because like I feel like I piggyback that, and just like the season of learning I've been in now as of lately, I guess, like with I've been taking like these weekly like business networking workshops online through this thing called Poet Life. It's a non-for-profit. It's actually a really dope resource for like people who want to do poetry as like a job. Like, they literally have everything in line where you can learn that, and it's like a school almost, but for something that like if you're into poetry, you're gonna learn it here. But I do this like weekly workshop every Tuesday, and like the only thing we do in the workshop really is just like have conversation, and they're kind of just giving gems on like what they've done and how they've signed $5,000 deals or contracts for teaching poetry at schools for just like 6 or 7 days in a month. You know, they're teaching you little things like that, and I'm thinking like, man, like I'm learning more from this little conversation of this dude. Like my notebook's always like filled with notes, like, okay, this is what I do, 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 you know. And like I've practiced some things they've taught me with kind of just me being more intentional about making poetry like more of a full-time career, you know. Like, I've learned so many things from them, but like it comes from just like hour just sitting on Zoom. You know, we didn't take any classes. We didn't do no intro to give your poetry to people 101. Like, it was just a conversation. I'm like, man, like this is like a useful resource, you know, just being able to learn by just hearing other people's experiences as opposed to just like reading for theory. Because I think that's where like I was talking to one of my friends about this, because like I feel like that's kind of like where educators versus teachers kind of come up. Like I feel like what's wrong with like how we do schools, like we have a lot of teachers and not enough educators. For me, like I look at education as like what it is in like its root word. Like the word education means to lead one out of ignorance. That's what an educator is. Like,
that's interesting.
An educator is someone who leads someone out of ignorance. You know, in order to know ignorance, you got to experience ignorance. You know, teachers. I feel like teachers this is my own definition of shit. My friend was like actually arguing about this with me, because like, man, like you're trying to rewrite the dictionary. I was like, the dictionary is just a bunch of words and concepts. Like, I can create my words and concepts too. Like, what the fuck? Like, of course, but like, and I say that because like teacher to me is just like more so just like someone who knows the theory well. You know how to be a teacher well. Like, you know the book. You know like how to do behavior planning. You know how to do IEP. You know all these useful things. But in the grand scheme of things, you're kind of useless because you don't know anything outside of that. You know, I feel like that's what the school's kind of like filled with people who just like know things from theory. But the educators learn from people through like experience, conversation, observing shit, you know. And then they don't. For me, I always tell people like a lot of my being a good educator is not really on going to school for it. It was helpful. I learned little things. I'm not gonna say it was completely useless, but like I learned more being just in the field of education, just being with kids and around kids. Like, I don't remember anything about the zone of proximity or how to use that shit, but I know how to like work with a little dude over here when he has PTSD moment, you know, and I know how to do that in a way where like it's progressive for him, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad that you like kind of stepped away from that and figured it out. Like you said, I called it. You know?
You did call that shit. It's like it's been honestly, and it's been hard too, because like I'm not gonna lie, like quitting a job where like I had a full-time salary and shit like that.
Yeah, for real.
And all that, like having to go back down to like working as like a parent, shit like that. Like there was some struggles there. Like, holy shit.
Yeah,
I had months where like my car was about to get repoed. I'm like, shit, like we gotta hide this bitch somewhere and play hide and go seek with the repo lady so I can pay this damn car note. It came with the struggles, but I think like that's how that shit starts. You know, I think
Yeah,
I'm thinking about it in terms of just reading about like a lot of activists that like I kind of like looked up to, like Fred Hampton and all that. Like knowing their narrative, like they weren't making they weren't making money off what they were doing as activists. Like they were broke as shit. Like they put the little change that they had from like donations and all this and that and the other, but like they probably had enough for like the bare minimum and shit like that. Not saying that's what I want to be. I'm like, nah, fuck that. I'm gonna not be that though. You know. But it's just understand that like that's gonna exist for a season though. You know.
Yeah.
If you're trying to like be under a different like. If you're trying to create your own, I shouldn't even say create your own system because I feel like that sounds more grandiose than it really is. But like when you're trying to create your own table, that's what I usually say. When you're trying to create your own table, like something from scratch up with like this thing I do with like Young Lions Roar. When you're building something from like the ground up, you don't have time to like, you know, you're gonna go through that struggle and all that. So it's came with its suffering, but we're almost out of it. We ain't all the way.
Speaking of charities and money, did you hear about the recent Black Lives Matter purchase? They bought a $6 million mansion.
Damn. All the white folks gonna have all the ballroom parties in that bitch. We're gonna have our Black Lives Matter.
We're gonna shoot our music videos in here. I guarantee that was 60% of their thinking.
Snoop Dogg doing a video in this damn mansion. Be some gangsta ass shit. That'd be some gangsta ass shit. Snoop Dogg just doing a concert in the Black Lives Matter like mansion. I wouldn't be mad at that point. I was like, you know what, fuck it. Some good use. Some good use.
Oh,
You're using it well. With so much drama in the NBC.
Shit.
But it's crazy. But it's just, yeah, that's weird. It's, you know what?
Yeah. It's just one of the stupid facts that floats around my head, I guess. I don't know. That's when you ingest podcasts all the time. You know, that's the thing because I clean, so I just a streamline of podcasting.
Oh yeah, so that's crazy so a podcast was talking about how like they bought this mansion and all that.
Yeah, they just because I listen to this political Timcast IRL, the guy Tim Pool. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
He actually was part of Vice. Like initially, and then he quit, and like he's done a lot of stuff like on the ground, and there's a famous Joe Rogan episode where it's him, Joe Rogan, and the executives from Twitter, and like they get into all this stuff about like the gender theory bias and like all these like ridiculous taking people down, and like every time they corner them, they're just like, well, we'll look into that. And then they like literally never did anything about it.
That is crazy. They ain't say nothing.
And Tim Pool was like the only one to be like, well, I thought this conversation was kind of disappointing. I don't think we actually really like accomplished anything. Just like, holy shit.
That's the honesty people need to hear though.
But he goes live 5 days a week. 5 nights a week, and like I don't know. I think like having alternate forms of podcasts that kind of operate as a news function. Yeah, but like they go for like 2-3 hours a night. That's like dope. It's like a news segment, but it's not chopped up. It's like actual natural conversation.
That's actually dope. I actually want to peep that actually.
Timcast RL, yeah,
that's makes sense to me.
Some of his politics are extreme. I don't agree with everything he proponents, but he has a very good insight. I think it's at least valuable to hear what he has to say.
That's the thing I like about podcasting, because it's just like, and I say this in like, though it may sound like bad, just like I say it in good terms, but there's so much people out there who are about a bunch of nonsense, you know, like, and they put their ideas out there, and like I think it's a good thing, because like for me, like it's the fresh and fit podcast, you know, is that what it's called? Fit
I'm not familiar.
You're not familiar with it?
What's it called again?
Fit and Fresh.
Fit and Fresh. No.
You mind
pulling that up?
Yeah, they've been on some. I'm surprised you haven't heard of them. They've been like really making like, for like a better term, like podcast waves. Honestly, they're part of that like they're part of that like red pill movement.
Fit and Fresh podcast.
Fit and Fresh. Yep. Mm-hmm. They're big. Yeah, they have they're big on YouTube. I mean, I think that's where they're not just on YouTube, but a lot of their stuff's on YouTube. But like
here, go their YouTube page.
Yeah.
Scroll down. Probably. Yep. There you go.
Yeah, and I'm surprised you haven't heard about them. They've definitely
they had
some pretty recent controversies.
And here's the thing, I already knew the answer.
Oh,
most
I
women,
did see
right?
this.
Yeah, yep.
90% plus are going to want the security of one man. You guys are not designed and or enjoy or want
If you want
to
to hear, you can
have
wear the
sex
headphones.
with a lot of
Oh
different
shit!
people.
Oh, you listen. Okay.
So
Oh,
here's the
shit.
thing that lady's got to understand. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm just going to simply state some facts here.
You want to put on full screen?
Sex, indiscriminate sex ruins women. It is what it is, and we have the stats to show it from a biological level, right? So
It's just a dick. Like
I will say
off
this:
the
can you
bat,
take
like,
a
it's
woman that has a
already
promiscuous past and turn her into a wife? It's possible. Is it
Here,
probable?
pause it one sec.
No, because
I love how there's sex women.
Yeah, they always
compared to
keep
the
out,
IFM, he's just like, fuck you.
Yeah, bro. He always has
Play
a
it
whole
again.
bunch of women on. Yeah.
the reality is this, and they've done studies on this. They've shown the more partners a woman has sexually, the higher the likelihood of divorce, not being able to last in a relationship, etc., and levels of unhappiness go up, whatever it may be. So, all I'm saying is this: when you go through your hoe phase and you have, sex with multiple partners, what you're effectively doing is you're playing Russian roulette, okay, with your ability, right, to pair bond with guys in the future. And there's a bunch of studies that show this too, okay. So the high
That is a
success
fair
rate,
point.
however, the
Yeah.
marriages that do last the most are with
I mean,
women
his
that have
conclusion's fine.
lower partner
Yeah.
counts. I think it's under five.
I
Well,
think
it
it's
seems
too
to be
just
the one.
like
And we're gonna do a
they
full
say
breakdown
these
on this
things,
with
but
Roll
not
to
about
Mouse,
it.
by the
Like
way.
these dudes
Guys,
saying
more than
that are
likely
still the
next
same
week
dudes
because
who
we had a
like
bunch of
literally
TikTokers
pay
talking shit.
women to like pay women and be like, yeah, I'll pay you $5,000 to come over and like fuck me and my friend.
Yeah.
So it's just like, bro, man, you're just saying that shit just to man.
Sex,
Yeah.
which it makes them bond with the person that they're hooking up with, which is why women prefer to have sex with one person, okay, consistently. All right. And then also, you guys might not like me saying this, but sexual gratification for a woman isn't that important. That's your argument that you were saying before. How do you know
she's
if you're-
pissed.
Actually, yeah, because, you don't know.
You pointing at me?
But no, and I know a couple of you guys had mentioned that. The reality is this: only one ejaculation is needed to create life, and it ain't yours, ladies. Okay. And the other thing too is that men provide way more utility than just sex. Think about it. Before a man can even fuck you, he's got to bring certain things to the table. He's got to look good.
All right,
He's got to be
let's
attractive.
pause this.
He's got to
Yeah.
be confident.
I've had enough. We're delving into
but,
like
but now you're seeing what I'm saying. Like these dudes, like they're at the end of the day, they're stupid. Like they just take all the, like they say good stuff that's like factual and all this, but like you can tell they're using it for some. They're no different than the Steve Crowders to me, from just a different kind of levels. Like you're saying all this smart shit, bringing up all these stats and all this just to justify your own personal perspective of like what relationships are because you are mad about some shit that you went through as a kid or some shit, or maybe you just didn't get any hoes or whatever they say these days, and like you're just mad and you're making this podcast that everybody follows. Like these guys are geniuses, and people. The thing about it is like it's. For me, like looking at these things, like I like watching because it makes me like, okay, like why do I disagree with this? Like, why do I think this is nonsense? It makes me actually think about it. Whereas, like, I mean, you have people who literally just watch stuff like, oh yeah, I believe that, and they don't even question it. Like, their followers are the most stupidest people, I will say. Like they're just they're a special bunch. Like I've heard them talk and make podcasts and like they talk about how like Fit and Fresh saved their lives and made them like a lot more attractive than Wyndham. I was like, wow, like you must be a loser. Like these guys saved your life. But
oh my god,
that's my insensitive spiel about. But that's what I like about like having like various podcasts like that because there's so much ideas to like navigate and like wrestle with, you know.
Yeah,
and you can really find yourself in that if you use it wisely because like you're not gonna agree with everything everybody says. You know?
Do they always have that many women on?
Yeah, yep.
For real?
And some of them like they're not the brightest women. Like, I'm not even like it's not. They're very surface. Like I think they do this on purpose. They do this on purpose. They have people like they try to make it like where they have people who like no, they won't challenge them or make them think differently about anything. But they have people who they know will stay surface and like people who will like they literally will tell women to just shut up and just sit down on all this and like they'll just do it. I'm like, yo, that's bogus. Like, but I think they're doing this for a reason. Like they're literally using these people as like a ploy to be like they know who's in charge. We're the alpha males, and you see these women shutting up because like man, like I know a couple women from Rock Island. If you said that shit, then they'll beat your ass in a quick second. Like you told me to do what, and they will put hands on you. But again, like I think they just do that for a reason, kind of just like that's what the audience likes to see because it's the whole dichotomy of like men are better than women. That these dudes create this podcast because they think that like masculinity's at threat and all that. You got to be, I don't know. It's a weird thing, man. But
Yeah, very kind of cultish.
Yeah, It is, no, it is cultish for sure. It is cultish for sure.
We're back again.
Part 3.
The sequel to the sequel.
Right. I feel like
to the Patreon sequel.
Right.
Or the original.
Our episodes be so long though, man. I feel like it's we had to take those breaks.
Yeah, but that's what I love about you, man. That's why I love having you. Like,
not seriously.
You know, there's some guests. You know, no offense to them, but I feel like I'm kind of stretching it with the hour. I'm like, give me some more. You know, that's why unless I invite you on, I charge people.
Yeah,
and it's been a good tool to weave out the people who, because I had one motherfucker who the morning of. I was talking to him. I was like, hey, gonna be here? He's like, yeah. And he just never showed up. And then I would even see him later at shows and he never fucking mentioned it. I'm like, yeah. Well, if he ever asks to come on, nah, fuck you, man. I'll blacklist people, The guy who was doing the whole who started all the racism shit on Facebook, he's never fucking coming on.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, bro, you got people coming you get people coming I've noticed too. I noticed on your TikTok the most. There was a video that I think it was the one with Lilo Savage was in it.
Yeah, the
Kanye thing. I saw that comment from this fucking dude who said I don't even he's he was speaking a different language, but I knew what he was saying. Where he was like, oh well, this person being problematic. Boom, 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 boom. On my mind, I was like, man, shut the fuck up.
There was one that was this seems like a toxic podcast environment.
It's no, watch you fucking idiot. If you don't like the podcast, what has happened? People just taking ownership of you know what? If I don't like this, it's not my taste. I can walk away. It's just you think that you're so fucking important. Just gonna make a comment talking about oh, I'm offended, and I'm gonna let you guys know how I'm offended. It's we don't give a fuck. I wanted to comment on that so bad, but I was like, nah, I digress. Let me say it in my head. It's just this is just the asinine part of it. It's because it's funny. I went through the same experience like that with my book that I'm putting out this month and all that. Like I was telling you, my book that I'm finishing publishing now, It Is Good It Is Written. I'm releasing it this month, so I've been having this little press. I've had some friends help me with press releases and all that. My friend John Taylor helped me a lot with the press release and putting it in certain newspapers in the region and all that. Mm-hmm. But there was a post from a Facebook post for our Visit Quad Cities page on Facebook, and they were talking about my book and what it was about and all that. And in the headline of the book, they said that they posted they posted what I sent them on 2 posts, which was said that the book hopes to resonate with the hearts of the hearts and souls of Black America, right? Because that's the intention that I kind of wrote it from. Does it mean that I'm being divisive? No. Anybody can pick up the fucking book and read it. I'm not gonna stop you oh, you're white, you're not gonna read the book. It's it's a fucking book. Read it, wrestle with it. If it doesn't include you, cool. It's giving you a different perspective. But I said to say that under that comment, there's this white dude who said that the book's a bit divisive. And he's on his high horse. You can even just tell from the comments, oh, well, I'm not going to support this, nor this artist and all this. So I messaged him. I was like, okay, well, how about we talk in person? Because I thought he lived in the Quad Cities, but he lives in San Antonio, Texas. So he messaged me, and it's off bat. I was like, what's your beef? Because you came onto this post that you saw and felt the need to have this comment because you feel some type of way. Let's talk about your feelings, Andrew. So I'll read off the things what he says. Honestly, I have it in my phone. Honestly, I'll read off what he says verbatim. It's because he caught feelings, but he didn't know. I'm not one of those Black Lives Matter people. I'll push you in a corner and ask you some questions that make you look like an ass. That's exactly what I did. Yeah, and we actually have a video. I'm gonna tell you that earlier. We have a video of me commentating on his post and breaking down what was fucked up about it, and how he could think differently about it. So I'm like, man, you just gave me some material to promote my book. I thank you, Andrew. I gotta thank you for that. But let me see if I can find that.
Is the video public on Instagram or something?
Not yet. It's going to be very soon.
It's on your phone. Okay.
Yep. So this guy, what he said was, he quoted the paper when it said how it resonates with the hearts and souls of Black America, and he said, I feel the description is dividing. These are only my opinions, nothing but respect for stepping out there and creating a business and doing your thing. Okay, if it's your opinion, then why does it fucking matter? Why are you messing me over your opinion? You learned in school. I know that you learned this in school because I still teach it, but they taught you about opinion and fact. Opinion and fact. Your opinion is irrelevant. You've known about this, Andrew. The fuck? We're going to call you by your phone, Andrew. Yeah. But he said, I would have felt more included if the description said, aims to resonate with all Americans or something to that effect. Again, it's your book. I just didn't feel I just I just feel like it didn't feel inclusive. Maybe that wasn't your intent to be inclusive. Maybe you want to target only Black Americans. And my first answer was like, when in my head I was like, yes, like Andrew, I wrote that for Black Americans, just like some women write book for women. So it's just like some Christians write book for Christians.
Exactly.
Some atheists write book for atheists. Like, I don't see you being like, oh, you're writing a book for just atheists. Like, you should say all people's. Like, you have a problem with something. We're going to get to the bottom of that. And that's where I asked him straight up. I was like, okay, so it's just your own personal confliction off of a word. Black. Am I correct? He said correct. So you have a problem with a fucking word because in your mind this word means divisiveness. This word doesn't include you because you're not it, and you feel that I should change it because you don't feel included. Like, well, bitch, you know what? Welcome to being the minority. And I don't say that as being black. There's poor people and all
it's
that.
It's African American. Come on, man.
Right? All right.
You're not being woke enough.
Right? And even that part was funny with dude. With you even saying this, remind me how like dude even said like, he says, it's gonna resonate with all Americans or just black hearts and souls. Like, bitch, we American too. You just said black hearts and souls. Like, we're not fucking emos or some shit. Like,
I had a teacher. It was the Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
And he told us he like spelled out like this phrase in Mandarin. He was like, say that to your Asian acquaintances and friends.
What?
And I was like, okay, so you're telling me to just go up to someone who looks Asian, who may not know a lick of Mandarin, and you're just gonna start spitting. Like, your white ass is just gonna start spitting some fucking Mandarin. Be like, what the fuck is your problem?
Yeah, what the fuck? He told y'all to do that? He was setting you up for failure. He's breeding stereotypical motherfuckers.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Welcome to media, man.
Damn, he really straight up said that with all conviction and belief that's what
Yeah. Yeah. There was one class we just had. He hit what was it? Homosexuality, religion, and Trump all in one class. By like in like hour 15, and I was like, I'm so uncomfortable. I'm like, can we just this is what I'm required to have my time spent. Like 2 hours a day in the middle of my afternoon. I have to sit here and watch some asshole fucking the empire, and like I'm like, okay, fine, but like I'm not here for that.
Yeah, just kind of giving he was kind of giving his like perspective and pretty much telling you guys to run with it.
Exactly.
That is
Who
crazy.
gives a shit? Go on your fucking forum and go write about it, man.
Exactly. It's just like your opinions are good in a certain place. There's like it's for me just with that dude. I'm just like you're coming at me as if like it's like there's a reason you said that you felt some type of way and you thought you were gonna change somebody's mind because your feelings weren't being catered to. So it's like, well, bitch, like that's life. Not everything's gonna cater to your fucking feelings. Like for you, Andrew, for being somebody in his 50s with kids, you should know this shit. Fucking Christ! Like, do you got to pick up your kids from school and you're sitting here arguing me over some shit that you felt bad about because like because you just don't know how to deal with yourself? It's just like, man, but I don't know. It's one of those things like I kind of realized was gonna happen with the book and all that. Like I've had like little. Like I've had dudes kind of just like have their reactions to it, like say it's like ridiculous and mocking, but I'm like, you know what? Like I've just learned in my life that like, as mean as it sounds, and like you may have the sentiment and you may like it because it holds nihilism in it, but like I've just realized that people are just stupid and like there's nothing you can do about that. And you're like, it's just like, why would I let a stupid person like make me feel some type of way? Like I just can't. That's how maybe that's just how I cope with it. But I just realized like, okay, if people literally have a problem with it, it's like they're just stupid. Like there's no reason to give the energy because like you're gonna have like you face like you had one of the stupid people who said this like thing on TikTok to kind of just like make themselves feel like bigger than you or whatever. It's just like, you know what, like that's just the world we live in. Like all y'all think that your opinions really are the best things in the world. Like your opinions are like a Bible to you, and like if you're that dumb, like I just can't let that fuck with me because like if I try to give you that attention that you want and like do what people do and kind of fall in traps of that, like it's not worth my attention, you know.
I recently had a instance with a Karen.
Yeah.
For my video class, I was kind of telling you a little bit about this.
Yeah.
So this fucking bitch in the script about a guy hitting a man with his car and burying him with this sketchy friend had a problem with 4 words: Jesus Christ, goddamn, because it was blasphemy.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like she's like, one blasphemy. I'm like, okay, I'll try to work with it. And then I was rewriting the script, and I came to a bump, and I asked her, I'm like, hey, is goddamn okay? She's like, it's still blasphemy. And then I kind of just was like explaining like why it was difficult for me to write, and I was like, well, personally, I think if it's this big of a deal, we should vote on it. And she just went on this big whole fucking crazy tangent, like saying like it seems like you're and I was just like, nope, no one of us like can monopolize like what goes into this movie.
Yeah.
And she was like, you're accusing me of monopolizing. You're the one writing the script. I'm like, holy shit. But she then asked me if I was Christian, which is a huge, like, professionally in like a class environment, like,
yeah, you just don't
go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like and I'm an atheist, but like I still like I don't go around asking people's religion. There's no there's no point
to try to disprove their shit.
Yeah,
or something.
and then she made what was it exactly that she said like about Muhammad? Basically, it was like if it was Muhammad, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
No, not that she wouldn't.
Or
this wouldn't be if something about if using Muhammad's name in vain, like then you'd have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Saying because it's Christianity. It was weird.
It was some weird some like I don't even know, but it like just the fact that she like was like Muhammad.
Yeah.
I would like it basically insinuating like I wouldn't have a problem if you were saying Muhammad's name. I'm like, wow, man,
Yeah.
Are you fucking
That is
kidding
crazy.
me?
She's like, if you would have just said like God Muhammad damn or some shit, or like what,
like if he just was like fuck Muhammad, the funny, or something like that. But like,
it doesn't make it. Yeah, that's funny. Like that she got mad that like it was all about the word. Yeah, again, I think it kind of turns back to the thing with the dude I was talking about. Like it's people have this perception like they got so much ego invested in words, where they think that words actually like.
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, and what I was trying to explain to her was like, he's using the term interchangeably.
Yeah.
With like, well, interchangeably in a sense, but also like I was trying to explain because like there was a moment where he like kills the person and he's like, Jesus Christ, that was the line initially, and like that had like some kind of appeal to a higher power, and that meant, and I thought that like meant something.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even trying to get into a thing. The funny part though is I was like, she threw out a suggestion where it's like maybe in the story before he does it, he realizes what he's done is wrong, and he looks up to the sky and like asks for forgiveness or something like really weird and like outlandish. I'm like, well, that completely changes the tone of the
Yeah, it's like, what?
Like, we're not
Just
doing.
because you're offended.
Yeah, this isn't like your church project. Okay, this is like this is a short film.
We're not showing this to you, bro. That is
So
funny.
she left. So as far as I know, she's left the group and she's going off and doing her own thing. I'm like, fine, go for it.
Making her Christian films.
Yeah, go. Yeah. If she wants to do like a church service thing, go for it. Like, but I'm not doing that. Like, sorry.
You're gonna be the talking point for many of her sermons. Like I remember when I was in college, I had to fight for faith when somebody used Jesus' name in vain 3 different times. Like she's gonna use that as like case study for this youth.
Well, and her misinterpretation is like that I'm going against Christianity. It's like, no, I wouldn't do that for any like religion and belief. That's not the point of what I'm making.
It's just a phrase, but it's just how much people put like themselves into words so much where like it's offensive like that. It's just like, man.
Yeah. Speaking of, I know you wanted to ask me about my album.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, enjoying my time in hell. That was a dope little album. Man, honestly, I guess...
I'm taking this narcissistic... Molly's giving me a look. She's like, you motherfucker.
Hey, we said we were going to talk about it, though.
He did. It was his idea.
It literally was my idea, because I've heard it a couple times through.
She doesn't believe me.
I've heard it a couple times through on my little meditation walks. I'll be listening to the album, and it's like, this feels greatly contradicting, and I love it. Meditation music and listening to a very nihilistic project. I'm meditating on just dark shit. Looking at myself different. Like, goddamn. Like what? So what? I think I know. Like what kind of sparked the idea? I think I kind of know. But what sparked the idea for that project?
Well, I've always kind of had like that vibe to my music, and like I think it was just kind of a response to because I wrote a lot of it during COVID.
Yeah.
The song "Make America Call Again." I actually wrote that like 2 years ago, like a long time ago. That was kind of more amidst like the Biden Trump kind of stuff, but I think it was just kind of I wanted to make an album that had one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to piss people off.
Yeah, no,
Maybe not one purpose only, but I wanted that to be
people.
the main intention. You know, that's why there's the cover of me with the horns, and it's like, I don't know, the idea of enjoying my time in hell literally just kind of sparked in my mind and stuck.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's one, it's one of those things that does kind of create an offense to people who have like this concept of like being like, oh my gosh, like he's devil worshiping and taking souls to hell. It's like it is. I like that. I could sense that. I was like, man, I like how he did like wrote this out with the picture and the title. Like it's super dope.
Yeah,
and the Gates of Hell intro. Oh man, that shit was dope. I think I told you all like all together. I think like this. I mean, I rock with Paranoia just because it's dope. Loaded Up's dope as hell. But like Lust was like, whoa, like that was kind of a dope little. Just because like I don't know. I liked how it was real, but it was just like very just like I don't know. It was different. Like how'd you like come to like write that like and all that?
I don't know. I think that had a lot to do with like like post divorce and just in that relationship we were just not really intimate in that way.
Yeah.
And I feel like with my religious upbringing, pornography was just never like sex was really never discussed. Like my sex talk was like my mom came in with a folder, an actual folder that had printed out documents and like diagrams, and like she just was like, yep, this is how it works, and then she just left, and that was like it. That was it. We never had to talk about like teen, because like I was growing up hardcore Catholic. It was just not even question until I do it before marriage. Like they believed that like the day after pill or using a condom was like equivalent to abortion. That's how intense their beliefs were in that department.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that was like probably the most personal track I think I've ever written. And it was definitely meant to. I kind of hate that it's like one of the ones that people are vibing with the most because
it's real though. I think that's why it is like it kind of just speaks to like how it's just dope art all together, like with how you kind of told the story, but like at the end of the day people gravitate towards like real shit. So, like, that's why I enjoyed it. I was like, man, like it is real.
It definitely is like a portrait of like depravity and like sex addiction and like kind of also just like an homage to like the state of the internet that we live in and like how we are like like everything is sex appeal. It seems like
it really is, and like it's kind of been justified as a political thing. It's just one of those things like people. Again, this is a podcast where we just say shit. That like,
it's McAllister Hours, man.
Right,
we fucking do it.
But I think for me, like, cause like what like. The song like resonated with me because like I feel like I've been in a place of just realize like just working with kids like, and I think about this all the time, but like not just doing my own thing like and like starting like mentoring kids like through my own program and all that. I've been thinking like, man, like how do I like view this and like I know these conversations are going to come up in some kind of way because like TikTok being what it is, like you have sexual content everywhere, like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, OnlyFans is like a thing and all that, and
25% of the time when you open up their talk, it's some chick shaking her ass.
No, it really is.
Like,
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like I remember there was a video thumbnail that I saw like a couple weeks ago of like this athlete from Russia who was like doing a pole vault. She like was gonna break the pole vault world record and shit like that. And the thumbnail was like her and like her shorts swallowed up in her ass pretty much just showing her ass. And like for me, I'm like, wow, like I bet I know that like that's low key one of those like sex appeal things. Like it really is. Like somebody made that like thumbnail there intentionally because again, like it's that sex salesism. So like for me, like realizing it's everywhere, I'm like, man, how do I navigate this conversation like with students when it comes up? Because for me, like I think like, and it's just my personal journey with it, like from being like a young adult and shit like that. Like I had to learn that like porn addiction is an addiction. Like it fucks up your perception of like how you see people. It does that shit. But like people, but this is again like the next man will say like, no, it's just educating people. That's just your own personal things. It's like no, like it literally is a psychological thing that happens to the brain. And for me, I'm like, how do I navigate this in this world where that says that like, oh no, you're just being a bigot, like you're not being body positivity. It's like that's not body positivity though. Like that's literally like you're allowing somebody.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, it's just when people justify and say like, well, kids are learning something from porn. Like none of us sat down with porn and said like, oh, we're gonna learn how to like. We were watching it like okay, maybe like we tell ourselves that in our brain, but like we're watching it for what it's doing to our brain, the dopamine and all this, what it's doing in our brain. You know,
Yeah.
nobody's intentionally saying like, okay, we're gonna like if we want to do sex, like, we're gonna watch this porn video and learn from it. It's like it's there and it does something. So like for me, like I've been trying to learn like how to navigate that, or even if people are seeing that too. But like hearing that song, like okay, cool, like.
Well, and that like area specifically for me is like one of my biggest criticisms of religion is like, you know, because percentage wise, like people who are religious tend to watch porn more, like Christian specifically. Like there, when you have it like be when you have anything as a taboo, you're naturally going to attract people to do it.
You're making it electrifying.
Exactly.
You know?
So like for me personally, like growing up in an environment where that was really cut off and like developing like my sexuality around something that was like, you know, quote unquote wrong, like that fucks a person up.
No,
like,
it really does.
You know, so I think that song was a lot about that. It was about, yeah, I mean, it's we were kind of, you know, you were kind of alluding to, like it is a generational thing. Like I feel like a lot of people have a problem with that. I was watching this documentary. I think it's called something with brown paper, but it's about porn addiction. Like it gives stats of like how many people, you know, the percentage of people that watch porn, like how many people watch porn at work, and it's staggering. Like people don't think like literally everybody's watching porn. You know, that's it's just a reality, and like there are all these things that people talk about, and like nobody is talking about stuff like that. Like. Like, you know, I think we said before, I've said talking about you maybe last time is like, I think people need to like talk to their kids about porn. They need to have that conversation.
You have to.
Like, and it's sad, but it probably needs to happen at a younger age than we want to. But that's if you explain to them like, hey, you know, there's this depiction and it's not accurate, and it, you know, you're gonna find it attractive and you're gonna want to do it, but you just have to. It's not even. I don't even think it's. Personally, I don't even think it's 110% a bad thing to like watch porn at. Like, I think somebody can watch porn in moderation, just with alcohol or marijuana or anything. But I mean, also people need to be educated. Yeah. And the people who tend to overuse it, just like with drugs or alcohol, are the people who are, you know, it's more of a taboo to them. Like they're in that environment where they can't do it, or it's frowned upon to do it.
And then that is kind of that's
and then they're kind of doing it in secret, you know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right in that. Like that's how it's usually kind of handled in that sense, where it's just like it's you really just like try to like, because I don't know, like it's you try like you do it in hiding and kind of like damn, like it's once you if you don't talk about sex, like it's because being somebody who grew up in like the church and all that, and like was kind of like really involved in like youth group start type shit from like 19 to 25, like that was something that like they always pound their kids' heads, but like at the same time, like, and so I never thought about when I was a young adult, but like I think about now, like damn, like that was fucked up, and maybe I just kind of like looked over it because I was in it. But we had like I know like a lot of pastors that were pastors I went to church up for, and like a lot of them had to resign for jobs because of like porn addictions, or like just doing inappropriate things, like and all that, and like them never talking about it. Like they'd say it, or like if they talked about it, like it was kind of in this very weird religious way where like they talk about it as like their sin, and like they're just crying and weeping in front of people, which I'm like, is kind of weird.
But they're not really like dealing with it or addressing it.
Yeah,
they're not like acknowledging that it's like, hey, maybe the problem is our institution, not like that this person. Like maybe we are creating an environment where people are allowed to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Because of the rules that we create, but again, it's just like those rules are just honored, and like people just don't understand the. Yeah. You know?
Well, and that's like the really frustrating thing about like, because you know my parents are still really hardcore Catholic. Yeah. And like I'm an atheist, and like, I feel like that specifically like the pedophilia that's involved in the Catholic Church, like they will like just blissfully ignore that. Like I remember after I was going through my divorce, I was living with my parents again, and my dad was watching the Catholic or the news or something, and they brought up pedophilia in the church, and he just shut it off.
Wow.
I was like, all right,
yeah,
well, that's I get that. You know, I see what
yeah,
I get that, but I see what you're doing there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, we just don't want to see it, talk about it. We're just gonna pretend like it's not a thing. It's crazy.
You know, I say this when it comes to all that, like, you know, Christians can say, I hate the sin, not the sinner. I think it's okay for atheists to say, I hate the belief, not the believer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like,
I like that, actually.
you know, more of a target focus, I think, for me personally, like, realistically, like an institution.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think, like, tackling the idea of God is very realistic, but I think, like, maybe, you know, taking apart these, you know, monarchy institutions that are doing these really horrible things. Like, this is me personally. This is my crazy libertarian atheist talk. So,
No, I mean, you said pretty much like taking it like away, like the like institutional part, like is
yeah, well, because I think
get
like
that.
I think like, you know, I don't have a, you know, because I know you're Christian, right?
No,
Or
I mean,
you're not.
I'm
Okay,
just-
sorry, I didn't mean to.
I'm just everything. I mean, the thing about it is,
Okay.
like, I tell people, like, a lot of, like, being somebody who kind of grew up in church and, like, had that, like, narrative for, 25 years and all that I was, like, in the church and all that, like, when I left the church, it was more so because I was like, man, like, this place is racist. Like, y'all really showing your racism right now.
Yeah.
And I started really understanding that, like, how I had cultish tendencies about, if I'm to be honest, you know, like, there's one thing that made me kind of realize this when I was at Atlanta, Georgia with the person that I was, like, engaged to at the time. We were kind of just away doing our thing, kind of just our kind of getaway and all that. And the church that I was at, they demanded that I come back and take this 13-hour drive just to do, like, some quote-unquote street ministry for an hour. Because that was one of the rules for them giving me the house that I stayed in. And I started thinking on a 13-hour drive, I was thinking about so much shit. I'm like, yo, like, I'm literally their slave right now. They're having me leave where I'm at 13 hours to come to this place in LeClaire just to do an hour of just free voluntary work that they think is the work of God and all that. Like, because they're holding a house that they gave me over my head that I only pay like for air and water for. It's like, this is fucked up.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, like, this is how it is. Like, church is a system. Like, it's just like any other system. Like, it's church Christianity in America is like, it was all founded on just like white dudes just trying to take control over shit. That's all it was. Like, for me, like, no matter how you try to like switch it and all that, obviously there's nuance to it. Where like, it's the whole conversation like the historical black church and historical white church. They're two different entities, but even some, like we talked about earlier, some our churches abide by the idea of white. So the churches actually end up looking a lot less transformative, you know. It's just one of those things that, like, I kind of realized, like, how, like, it was just, like, more of an institution thing, you know, and I was like, man, like, when I left the church, it was more so, like, man, I'm leaving the institution. I think this being God and all that, like, though even those things may be wrong because they were wrong about all this shit, so they just may be wrong about that, like, I still think that's a thing. And for me, like, God is, like, whatever, like, it's, even the concept of God, like, that's just my best wording to describe the whatever I am trying to talk about. It's just like energy is, just like universe is, just like whatever it is, you know, like our concept of God is just like ideas that like we kind of try to use to justify certain things, you know. So for me, like, there's some some parts of faith that kind of back up that idea, you know, that I'm like, okay, this is dope. I can take these ideas because I understand them. And then they look like the ideas that I get from like Buddhism and all that. It's like, oh, like, but they say the same thing too. And there's this common area. So like, I think like for me, like, I don't really call myself anything because again, it's just like it's as hippie of an answer it sounds like as people will be like, oh my gosh, I roll. It's just like I don't really like live in any kind of label in that sense. Like there's truth that I get from well, like the Bible in a sense. It's like, holy shit, like that actually. I mean, you've heard a lot of my work. A lot of my work still holds a very like religious standpoint with the metaphors and the stories and some of the schemes that I use, like because there's something kind of parabolic about those stories that's kind of like dope, you know. So like I think that part's dope about it. So like it's not to say that I still don't like read that and like get a sacredness out of it, just like I do when I read mantras that like Buddhist teachers create, you know. It's just everything we got is the same thing. We're just throwing little concepts on it, you know.
Well, and that's like one of my biggest criticisms of like a majority of atheists is like they completely disregard religion like entirely. And like I don't think it's incorrect as an atheist to like acknowledge that there are things in the Bible that like are morally correct, like, or that like teach something morally that are good. I mean, my personal argument would be that you wouldn't need the Bible for that. I think you can do that just you know, in human interaction. But like, you know, I don't think you can disregard that. Like you know, there is some value to that, you know. And like you know, another big criticism I have of you know, atheists is like they have instead they're, you know, the human energy that would be you know, to like religion and things is going into politics now. And like that's almost in a way like worse in some senses.
No, it's crazy because you know what's crazy about that? I I'm gonna bring up that video I was telling you about because I'm gonna find it quickly. But like that's one thing that I've kind of like been all the more making a connection with. Just realizing that like Christianity is like very rooted in politics with how we see it. And like I say that because there was a little video I was watching. I forget what it is. Like I forget what channel it is on YouTube. But there's a series where they have like different type of people smoking pot together, having conversations, like conservatives and liberals.
Oh, I have seen
smoke
that.
pot,
like the granny videos, and like the police smoking.
Yeah.
I have seen those.
There was an episode of like this conservative and liberal kind of like smoking together and all that, and like they were having this conversation. And this one lady, the lady who was like the Christian and all that, was saying how like she's somebody who's a like Christ follower is what they call it and all that. And she said like this promotes her political ideas behind being a conservative. I'm like, so you're saying like, again, you're justifying it right there. Like there's with your religion, it's not about the spirituality. It's not about the transformation that you get. That's not just about moral and all that, but just awareness of self. To me, it's just awareness of self and awareness of like the things going on around you. Like that's what it is. But like, it's not about any of that. It's about more so because you're connecting Christianity to conservatism, which historically is correct, So for me, it's just like that part's just like, man, like it's just bullshit. But the dude's JD Vance, that's who it is. This dude JD Vance, who's like he's running for mayor or something somewhere. But and his man, actually we'll have to have Molly put up just because I get here. But like he did this like he was doing like his little like how the people do their little video press runs and all that. In his video, he was saying like he straight up just blatantly said like, "Do you hate Mexicans too?" Like he straight up just said that easily, and I'm like, "Yo, who the fuck is this dude to have these type of balls saying that and not having no type of problem?" So I was watching an interview from him where he was saying that like in the last 2 years he's been more like he's exercised his faith more, and that's made him like become like what he was. I'm like, again, like you're proving like you said your Christianity is making you a
can you pull up, what is it again?
JD Vance asks, "Do you hate Mexicans?" Just the title is like that's a real title. JD Vance sounds like a bank too, by the way. It's like JD Vance, like we accept all people but Mexicans. I feel like
okay, white supremacist violence is.
Oh yeah, shoot. Is the second one? That one minute. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's in a campaign video? Oh, that's even better.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Straight up campaign video. Yeah, I don't know what I called it. I definitely didn't call it campaign. But that, bro, I was like, this dude's got.
Hey, if Trump can do it, anyone can fucking do it.
That's he's got that Trump energy.
It's muted. You gotta. Thank you.
Joe Biden's open border is killing Ohioans, with more illegal drugs and more Democrat voters pouring into this country. Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans? The media calls us racist for wanting to build Trump's wall. They censor us, but it doesn't change the truth. Joe Biden's open border is killing Ohioans, with more illegal drugs and more Democrat voters pouring into this country. This issue is personal. I nearly lost my mother to poison coming across our border. No child should grow up an orphan.
Wait, go back. What? What did he say? Go back a little bit. Yeah, there.
No child should grow up an orphan.
Good. Sorry, go back a little bit more.
Yeah.
Coming across our border.
Yeah, a little bit more.
No child should grow up an orphan. I nearly lost my mother to the poison coming across our border. No child should grow up an orphan.
But like how? How? How can he just say that?
No, he said he said poison across the borders. He was talking about
I almost lost my mother to the what? Oh, he's talking about like the drug. Oh, I get it. Okay.
I was
confused.
I thought poison was just a low key like.
I thought that's what I thought at first too.
But it could mean that maybe it's just like.
Who knows? Because he didn't even fucking specify. He just said some vague ass like my mother died from the poison that came across the border. Like what?
So you talking about Mexicans? Like you was.
So are you saying that like a Mexican stabbed your mother? Or are you saying that the drugs that they brought killed your mother? Or like, what the fuck are you saying?
Like, what was your mother doing drugs anyway?
Jesus Christ. This is Ohio? Oh my God.
He just blatantly said it, bro. He ain't care. He's like, do you hate Mexicans?
That's the point. That's what happens when you take Trump off Twitter, man.
Yeah. He's building his Trumpites. His army's coming.
Yeah, did you hear Elon Musk bought like 9% of it? He has the largest share of Twitter now, Elon Musk.
Oh no, I didn't know that. Damn.
Yeah.
That makes sense,
His
though.
mom was hospitalized due to heroin overdose.
That's
His mom?
maybe your mom should be more careful what she does. Shit. The fuck? Don't blame it on nobody. Like blame your mom for having like heroin. It's like and that's not me being a jerk to like knowing addiction, but like she made a decision to put the needle in her. So don't blame that on Mexicans. Like the fuck? My mom died of heroin and I blame Mexicans. Like what the fuck does that sound like?
A Mexican broke into her house and injected her with heroin. She's dead because of you bastards. Stay the fuck out of Ohio.
I just pictured Mexicans just jumping through the window. It's like, I gotcha.
Mexicans don't want to go to Ohio. They can't drink.
Oh shit!
Like
Holy
fuck,
fucking
dry
shit.
state. I can't fucking do it. Aubrey, is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Oh man, I don't know. You know, after that, no, I don't think you can. I don't think you can come back after that and talk about something serious.
Well, we have one more thing to do here before we wrap this up. We have a little thing on the show where I was telling you about this earlier called the Fucked Up Bucket, which is a series of fucked up things on papers, and the objective is to read them. If you don't want to read them,
for sure.
that is okay, but I will just read it for you. So
For sure.
might as well do it.
You said a Mexican broke in her own and injected her with heroin. That's the most funniest shit I think I've ever. The imagery that went to my mind.
Oh, you want me to do it first?
Oh no, do I? I got my card.
Yeah, go for it.
So I just look at it.
Yeah,
Just read it.
Yeah. Just look at it, read it. Yeah.
Oh shit. That 65% of adults in the U.S. still believe that those Mexicans are starting that they're doing it. Like the reason why we got heroin over here. No. That 65% of adults in the U.S. still believe in a egotistical asshole that mercilessly killed the world's population over basically nothing. And that's why you should vote for J.D. Vance, folks. It's going to lead us to a better future. These egotistical assholes will not exist if you vote for J.D. Vance. If he comes out with the hat, I'm wearing it. It better be red, too.
What was the fucking intent of that? I think that was God. I think that was like the Great Flood. I don't know why I would put. I think it would be higher than 65%.
These when you're like fucked up.
I like that, though. No, that's...
It's the fucked up bucket, though. That's the whole point.
I like that.
They don't make sense.
I think we do need an editor. I think Molly has brought that to my attention. And this is kind of like the third time where we've had a card that didn't work. So
I was going to try...
we might need an editorial process. An online Zoom college course for sex work, full of demonstrations.
OnlyFans is just a step away from that.
Nothing. Okay. We need an editor.
like
It's Coleman. You suck. No.
I liked it. I mean, like I said, it was low-key promotion for J.D. Vance, folks.
J.D. Vance.
Here to save America.
Fuck, man. What do you got coming? What's your social and all that?
Yeah, Poetic Aubs is always like I have a website. I'm trying to make it a practice more so to say that than like mention like the IG and all that. But yeah, I have a website www.poeticaubs.com. Like that's where like you'll just find all my shit now, like with videos. I'm actually working on I'm gonna start blogging soon again because like I just like that art form and all that. So, and it gives me more so a place where I'm not just creating these like long ass Facebook posts or whatever, but I can create something in context. So I'm gonna have a blog out there pretty soon. But that's where my book will be up for availability at too.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about do you have music coming out?
The next project I'm working on right now, like obviously I have my book coming out, and I just started this other project. It's gonna come out probably in the fall. That is poems from the project, but kind of like I'm working with a couple artists from Chicago. with like the production of it with like drums and like guitar and stuff like that. But that one is coming out in fall. I don't have a name for it yet. I'm just kind of just waiting until the name comes. But it's pretty dope. The cover's pretty dope too. I'll show you it later. But
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah. I just never know. Whatever I'm creating. I'm always making something. So
Yeah.
you see something random that just kind of pops out of nowhere. That's just what.
Well, like we were saying earlier, man, 3 projects in like 7 months or whatever. That
insane. Is crazy. Yeah, you know,
you're working hard, and I like it.
I got a project. I got a little rap project tucked away too that I worked on in January, and like it's literally one of the most fastest projects I worked on. Like it took 6 days to record and another week to like mix and master, and like I've just got that sitting around. But we'll talk about that when it gets closer. But I'm gonna let you listen to it early though, because that
hell yeah,
can fuck with it. But yeah,
awesome. Thanks, man. Hey, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
I fucking love having you every time.
I'm telling you, man, it's fun. We always have like, it's needed. We gotta do it more for sure.
Awesome.
We're going to.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I mean, both of us our stuff is kind of taking off and getting bigger and growing. So we'll continue to do it together, man.
Right. Seriously, when we get to Joe Rogan level, we're just gonna create something big.
For real.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys want to see him beat me in chess, go check on the Patreon. And yeah,
Yes, sir.
we'll be back later. Peace, everybody. Have a good one.